Hello everyone. Today I'm here ranking another band. Since you guys seem to like the last ranking I did, this time I thought I'd do a band that's a bit more underrated in my opinion. And that band is, of course, Skillet. They are a Christian rock band, and they are quite popular, but they're also quite underrated. They have some really, really popular songs, but they probably don't get the recognition they actually deserve, at least not on like a global mass. So I thought that we would go through all their albums and rank them all from worst to best. Now, funny enough, Skillet was one of those bands where like their first album was completely different from everything else they did, and it happened quite a few times. So I'm going to kind of speed through the first few albums. I did listen to them all, and I do have my opinions. I think that some were a lot better than others. This was their first album, and amazing album cover. I am actually going to put it into C tier. It's definitely forgetful. Like, it's not a standout album by any means. It's very, 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 like, you know, punk rock, and it's very, like, you know, it's punk rock, but they're singing about, you know, like Catholic things. And it's very, very, very apparent, and it's very, very, like, in your face, and it's a good listen, but it's not anything super memorable. But this one gets a bit of a higher up. Spoiler warning, most of their albums, at least in the beginning stages, until their actual, I guess, good album comes up, and I'll get to that when I get to it. So the next album was this one. I can't even remember the name of it, which is why it's going in D tier. I also love the album cover, how it's like this is just like word art in like in like Word. I just remember using it in high school and remember seeing that and going, oh my god. Again, I just don't remember anything about this album. Like, I literally could not tell you anything about this album. I don't know which one of these two was next, but they're both going to go in the same tier, bottom. From what I do remember about these albums, they just, like, they kind of are similar, but they get more into like the techno stuff here, and it's just done very, very badly. It's just not interesting. It's just very, very, like, you know, it's like they have one effect on like the MIDI stuff, and they're like, that's the whole song. It's being based around that one MIDI effect. Obviously the band was still finding themselves. I totally understand it. It's just like, maybe you shouldn't have made albums, but at the same time, don't blame them. And then we have an album that's completely different from the rest of them, Collide. Collide is going to get a very comfortable B tier. Now, Collide doesn't have as many memorable tracks as what would come later, and we'll get to that as we get to that, but it's definitely a very strong showing. The title track is obviously a very huge. This is when the band starts getting into like the very super heavy, but it's also like got the violins, and it's that cool like kind of mixture of sounds, and it was definitely a step in the right direction for what their next album is, which is Comatose, which I'm actually putting at a comfortable S tier. This album absolutely rocks. Every song on this album is just really, really, really strong. There's one track on. There's a couple of albums, like on most of these albums, there's like one track where it's like spoken word passages, and those tracks definitely are not like the standouts. And this one, I will say, it just works. All the songs on this album work really well. The title track especially, Rebirthing's really good. The Last Night's really good. Yours to Hold was a song I really, really enjoyed a lot. Whispers in the Dark is just like one of the most memorable songs by them. It's very, very apparent. It's obviously up there for a reason. And another S tier album is right next, Awake. Now, Awake, is it better than Comatose? For me, it's a mixed bag. In terms of popularity, absolutely. This album has all the big bangers. This has, you know, Hero, Monster. Obviously, Monster is like their biggest song ever. You know, Awake and Alive. And it's got some very underrated tracks as well. But I would definitely argue that Comatose has a more consistent showing to it. Awake is definitely a really, really good album. Do not get me wrong. It is a very, very good album. But it also is almost held back. One thing about these albums too is that bonus tracks always tend to be way better than the actual album itself. And I feel like this is really the case with Awake. I'm used to listening to the album Awake with the bonus tracks, and they are really, really good. So for me, I definitely can't put it above Comatose, but it's still easily S tier. Like, come on, you've got to put it here. Now, next up, we have Rise. Rise was the album that came out when I first got into the band, which just puts me to how old I am. This album for me goes into A tier. It has some amazing songs on it. Do not get me wrong. It has some absolutely incredible songs on this album. But compared to the previous two, it just didn't hit the same mark. It was definitely more of a concept album, and I think that definitely affected some of the track's potential, because it was kind of held by the fact that it was applying to a concept, which, isn't a bad thing. But yeah, this album is like the, dictatorship won't hold me down and all that sort of stuff, and the state of the world, and obviously I'm assuming, considering the band, it's got something to do with religion, which isn't that bad, but it's a good album. It has some the good songs carry it, but I won't lie that some of the songs do get a little bit, I guess I haven't aged very well, in a way. Some of the songs are very goofy. Like, you've got songs like Rise and Not Gonna Die that are really serious and really got really deep and dark concepts, and then you have songs like Circus for a Psycho, which is just very, very goofy and just doesn't really fit at all with the album. It's a good song, but it just doesn't fit the album concept, and it kind of feels out of place. And it does have, unfortunately, a couple of forgettable tracks. And I think this is the start of when Skillet decided they wanted to do a new thing, which is with their next album, Unleashed. Now, Unleashed was the album, as much as Awake was the album that probably was what they're most known for, I think Unleashed was the one that got them onto mainstream. I think Unleashed was actually their biggest album, and I would actually say that I prefer it better than Rise. I think it does have a few songs that, I will not lie, are very, very I'm trying to get into mainstream, and they are not the particularly amazing songs, but I think Skillet performs better than some other bands. There are definitely bands out there that try to go mainstream and it doesn't fit. Skillet, it does fit when it goes mainstream. They do actually, what's the word, they shine with the ballads, and they shine with the more chill songs. It definitely is starting to not feel like a band, but it's not as bad as, say, the next album, which we're about to get to, Victorious. This album, I remember just listening to it and being very sad. I'm actually willing to put it here. It has one of my favorite Skillet songs ever on it, but it also has some of my least favorite Skillet songs. And while it has some really good singles, I think the singles are just so obvious. You've got Save Them, which is my favorite song ever. You've got Legendary, which obviously was the starring track for obvious reasons. And yeah, that was kind of it. The rest of the songs, This Is the Kingdom, is literally just Believer. It's just it's very Imagine Dragons-y. It's almost like listening to an Imagine Dragons album. It doesn't feel like a Skillet album, and it just didn't work for me. It's still better than that earlier stuff, but it just didn't do it for me. I will say that this album is like very close to matching it in quality. Also, they do have a new album out, which is not on this list. I actually am not a huge fan of the album. I would put it between... I actually would put it between Victorious and Collide. Actually, no, I'd put it above Collide. It's still in B tier. I'd put the new album above Collide. It just... For me, it was... I had to probably have to listen to it a few more times. But for me, all the songs kind of sounded the same. And I feel like Skillet is starting to run out of ideas. And they... I don't know, it just, for me, didn't really work. It felt like they were just trying to rehash old ideas, rather than do what this album did, which I'm about to get to. Dominion is, in my opinion, probably their most underrated album. In ways, I would say it doesn't quite reach Unleashed, like, we're going to try something completely different. It definitely feels like it's playing safe in a few songs, but it does work. The main things about this album, like this album is the one I know the best because I listen to it the most often. I can go through the entire track and discuss like what I like about it, what I don't like about it. Again, I have to make sure that I don't keep the bonus track involved because the bonus tracks are... Actually, no, it's got to go here. I just got to remember that. It's got to go here. It's better than these two, but it's still not as good as these ones. It's a very, very, very commendable effort. There's some really good songs, but there's also some really, really bad songs. And there's some very generic songs. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I've got to. I think I'll have to give this album less credit than it's due. Actually, it's not a bad. I would actually okay. With that case, think I would say that the other album would go to like around this area anyway. The standout songs are really good, but it just doesn't feel very Skillet-y. It feels very much like the good songs are really good. Like Dominion's really good. Shout Your Freedom's actually really good. Even some of the softer songs, like Forever Till the End is a really good one actually. But then you've got songs like Destroyer. While they have a really good riff, it's just like, it is the most generic song structure ever, and it's like they wrote the song title and went, okay, let's make the most like generic rock song about it. And Standing in the Storm is kind of the same thing. Standing in the Storm, I always hear like the binary sunset from Star Wars. But yeah, it's funny because I've sat here this entire video and gone like, yeah, this band's albums like are good, but they're not that good, and then kind of like said they're very underrated, and they are a very underrated band. I will 100% say that they are a super underrated band. I think that they are a bit of a singles band though, rather than a album band. But obviously, I understand that making an album is just easier and more convenient. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed these tier lists and give me ideas for other bands I could do. I would love to do some of these. But this is my list. And I hope you enjoy. Alright, bye.